and I have a weird idea. It's strange, it's odd, and it's to do with time travel. Yeah, I know, okay, I just finally watched the last Avengers film and the last Spider-Man film this week. I know, I feel like such a nerdy dweeb. Next, I'm gonna buy a Game of Thrones box set and ask my sister for a kiss and email a job application to Football Daily. But listen, for this video, I'm gonna take a look at every Premier League club and just see what would happen if you could pick any one of the current players on your club's payroll and trade them in for a better namesake. You know, another footballer with the exact same last name. And by the way, any footballer inside the last 20 years, going back to 2003, which is when I started following the sport. Nothing before then. So let's just see what would happen if you could trade a current player in for their namesake. What exactly would happen to your club? Yeah, I know, I told you it was weird. But I mean, just hit that subscribe button. Out of pity if nothing else. Right, let's go. Arsenal, Fabio Vieira for Patrick Vieira. Can you imagine offering Arsenal fans the chance to trade in Fabio Vieira? Someone who, since arriving from Porto, has been about as memorable as Tinkerbell's pregnancy test. Imagine being able to swap in this forgotten soggy pumpkin sandwich for, the 2004 version of Patrick Vieira. Not the current version. You know, the puffy, sweaty, 19 stone, middle-aged man who wakes up every morning, no doubt eating pancakes, chicken wings, and the breast of a cow. Honestly, I hope the janitors at Strasbourg keep their vending machines constantly stocked up with Kit Kats and twirls, or they'll probably Hulk smash the thing through the wall. But lads, imagine being able to replace a temperamental Granit Xhaka, someone who you just know spent every evening last season complaining about the fans to his wife, but imagine replacing him with peak Vieira, chucking the captain's armband on his bicep and shoving him into a midfield with Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard. I'm gonna say this, with the addition of prime Paddy V, you'd win the Premier League. So come on then, you tell me. Start studying the namesakes, because there are always multiple options in every club, and let me know what you find in the comments, because I bet that none of you, for example, knew that you could legitimately have swapped Nuno Tavares, an unwanted chunk of lettuce, for prime Fabinho. Don't believe me? Google his name. Aston Villa Wesley Moraes for Ederson Moraes. Oh lads, Aston Villa have the best squad suited for this game. Lads, you could realistically swap current Villa players for Lautaro Martinez, Roberto Carlos, Gerard Moreno, David Luiz, Adama Traore. You could even get back peak Gareth Barry or peak Ashley Young. Or how about 2013's answer to Aaron Ramsey? Instead of the current Aaron Ramsey, Jacob's little bro, whose potential is about as exciting as Haggard's toothbrush. But lads, I know Villa already have a world champion in nets. But I'm sorry, this is still too good a deal to pass up. Wesley Moraes is one of the most hideous signings in Premier League history. 4 years ago, Villa paid £22 million to take this Brazilian international centre forward, don't forget, out of Club Brugge. Yeah, he's turned out to be about as useful as a headless teddy bear that's just been used to mop wet popcorn off Jonah Hill's lap. He's somehow still on the Villa books, which is embarrassing. It's a bit like remembering that the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is still married to that miserable Ice Queen who's probably still got Tinder installed on her phone. But how about swapping Wesley for Ederson? I'm sorry, I know Emiliano Martinez is good, but call a spade a spade. He is an Arsenal reject. Ederson is top 3 most complete goalkeepers who ever lived. With a spine of Ederson, Pau Torres, Douglas Luiz. That's a Man City spine. I genuinely think Unai Emery might actually squeak them into the Champions League. Bournemouth, Siriki Dembele for Ousmane Dembele. Lads, if a few years ago Bournemouth had just made that championship loan deal permanent for that Spanish winger from Atletico Madrid, then in this weird Back to the Future reality, Bournemouth could swap him out for peak Juan Roman Riquelme. And I honestly think if he were able to do that, Andoni Areola would probably faint into his frosties. Lads, the easy and obvious one here would be to swap in Justin Kluivert for his daddy. But I can only span the last 20 years, remember? And Patrick Kluivert was burnt out by 2002. Honestly, his consistency was off the charts. He netted 25 goals for Barcelona 3 seasons in a row. But by soon living in Newcastle, munching on sausage rolls, and silently wishing that Alan Shearer was dead. So instead, I'll just give Bournemouth a £100 million man instead. Trade out Siriki Dembele, you know, that Ivorian trickster winger who weirdly spent 4 years at Dundee. He's got talent, but he is 26. I was last season loaned out to Auxerre, so instead just throw his passport in the bin and go get Ousmane Dembele. I know Siriki was long seen as an up-and-coming wonder kid at Peterborough, whilst Ousmane was literally playing for France 7 years ago. So it is still bonkers to think that Ousmane is still the younger one. But yeah, fit Dembele, everything will go through this man in Iriola ball. He'd bang in 15 goals in all competitions, be worshipped as a hero on the coast, although relocating from the Nou Camp to a 10,000-seater stadium that probably stinks of milk and the menopause. What a miserable year that would be for him. Brentford, Rico Henry for Thierry Henry. This is such a cheat code. I know they pronounce their surnames differently, but lads, I just said the names have to be spelt the same. I didn't say anything about pronunciation. Listen, I know 26-year-old left back Rico Henry is one of Brentford's most important players, but I mean, offer Thomas Frank the chance to trade him out for 2004's answer to Thierry Henry. You know, the season where he finished with 39 goals for Arsenal and should have won the Ballon d'Or. And I'm sorry, but Frank would be quickly shoving Rico in a coffin and shoving him off a bridge. Lads, if Ivan Toney could score 20 goals in a single season for Brentford, oh, then Henry would at least be scoring 25. He would qualify the Bees for the Europa League before celebrating with orange juice, cookies and a blatant handball. And can you imagine when Ivan Toney comes back after Christmas? A front two of Henry flicking it on for prime Henry. Wow. They finished 5th. Brighton, Robert Sanchez for Alexis Sanchez. Well, this is simple. Apparently, Spain international goalkeeper Robert Sanchez is now, what? Brighton's 3rd choice goalie? This is a bit like when Pep Guardiola ditched Joe Hart in embarrassing fashion. But I don't understand because Sanchez is actually good with his feet. Sanchez was supposed to be a progressive modern goalie who's even played for progressive modern clubs. Yeah, one of his football teams just sacked Duncan Ferguson for a woman. But yeah, if Brighton were to chuck away Robert for 2017's answer to Alexis Sanchez, who finished that season for Arsenal with 30 goals. Oh wow. A front three of Karl Matoma, Evan Ferguson and Peak Sanchez. It would be more scary a prospect than having lunch at Graham Norton's house. Why? He's just an annoying chatterbox with a horrible laugh. I'm not accusing him of anything else. But yeah, Brighton with this Sanchez, they'd win the FA Cup and probably finish 6th. Burnley, Jay Rodriguez for James Rodriguez. What a cash in this is. Lads, I've always looked at Jay Enrique Rodriguez and thought, you've got the wrong name. This is just some ordinary lanky striker, born and bred in Burnley, with the likes of Sterling, Albion, Barnsley and West Brom on his average CV. And yet, he's got the middle name of a Spanish pop star. With a name like that, he looks like he belongs at the top of La Liga. Not sitting in a Burnley car park, eating an apple pie, whilst crying to Lewis Capaldi in his Jeep. So swap him out for a luxurious Rodriguez. Peak James. Now you're talking. You know, the version that ate the 2014 World Cup for breakfast and then scored 17 goals in his debut season for Real Madrid? Lads, don't forget that Burnley play pretty football now, playing company ball at Turf Moor. Yes, I mean, James would probably wake up every morning, take a look at his muddy, ugly surroundings, and feel like jamming a spoon up his nose, but he would easily keep this team in the league. It would be spectacular. Chelsea, Thiago Silva for David Silva. Look, I know, no rational Chelsea fan wants to give up Thiago Silva. But let's not forget, he turns 39 in 2 months. The fact he's about to enter his 4th season at Stamford Bridge is almost unheard of. The fact that he only needs to pull on the Chelsea shirt 3 more times, and he would have officially played more games for them than AC Milan. That doesn't seem right in my head. But listen, he's arguably a modern day Chelsea legend. But still, if this was an actual reality, and Mauricio Pochettino didn't actually trade him in for peak David Silva, then I would question whether or not this Argentine coach should be allowed to use a knife and fork without parental supervision. Imagine peak Silva from what? 2014. One of the greatest midfielders in Premier League history. A saucy, insatiable footballer who's actually got a statue outside the Etihad. He's got 125 caps for Spain in an era where they were arguably the greatest international football team of all time. That is utterly mental, and sticking him into a Chelsea attack, threading the ball through for Mikhailo Mudryk, Raheem Sterling and Christopher Nkunku, he would single-handedly get this team back into the Champions League. And most Chelsea fans would instantly fall in love, despite him looking like he's probably about 25% rat. Crystal Palace, Chris Richards from Micah Richards. Well, if we want to stick to current players, I could just do a boring Doucouré swap, but again, that's about as exciting as a naked snail. Instead, I know 23-year-old USA defender Chris Richards is officially an ex-Bayern Munich centre-back, but I mean, he's barely played in Europe, really, so imagine trading him in for Micah Richards. Baku News, an actual Manchester City wonder kid. I know, right now, the kids just see him as a hyperactive clown, someone on the telly who's got a bigger fake laugh than KSI. But don't forget, back when he's a teenage superstar right back, he was playing for England and really high up on Jose Mourinho's shopping list at Chelsea. He was an incredible right back in his youth. He was like if Kyle Walker weighed as much as True Geordie. This would be an outstanding swap on paper, but there would be problems. I know relations between Richards and Roy Hodgson would be tense. Christ, but Rodgson brought Martin Kelly, the most dull and tedious vanilla right back of all time, to Euro 2012. Richards was so outraged, he actually refused to go on the standby list. So yeah, reuniting these two men would be tense. And chuck in the fact that Big Meeks loved the nightlife, going out wearing such wacky hats, he looked like the 5th member of JLS. Thankfully, he never actually played for a London club, but can you imagine a young Richards at Palace now? In a culture where even rival players are so nicey nicely with each other now. To an extent where we've got Marcus Rashford being invited to Virgil van Dijk's birthday party. Price of Richards will be out with Jed Spence, Noni Madueke and Bukayo Saka every other week. So aside from stinking up vodka and cranberry shots at Palace training 3 times a week, he'll be an absolute superstar right back and finally make the Palace fans forget all about Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Everton, Michael Keane for Roy Keane. Lads, if Jordan Pickford wasn't in the form of his life, then I would be tempted to trade the Onanas. That is how highly I rate the soon-to-be Man United #1. But no, obvious choice here, and what an upgrade this is. Michael Keane, the odd wonder goal aside, is an absolute bang average meatloaf of a centre-back, who probably should have just stayed at Burnley in 2017. The fact Man United were ever linked with ever buying him back makes about as much sense as wanting to go bowling with the Hulk. I know Everton need goals right now, and I know the 2008 version of Robbie Keane is so tempting. Lads, he netted 45 goals in his last 2 seasons at Tottenham. That's almost Harry Kane levels of quality. But no, 2003 version of Roy Keane. 32 years old and winding down, yes, but Christ, having a leader like him to shake up this stale Everton dressing room, that might wake 1 or 2 players up. I mean, can you imagine Roy picking up a Dominic Calvert-Lewin, turning up 50 minutes late to training because he was deciding which skirt to wear? Having Keane as captain at Goodison Park, yes, it would probably trigger a culture of fear, but the entire standard of the club would raise. I can't really imagine Roy Keane and Dele Alli being teammates. Within 9 minutes of the first training session, Ali would probably burst into tears. Fulham, Harry Wilson for Callum Wilson. Yep, pretty simple this. It's a shame Daniel James has gone back to Leeds after his loan deal, because Reece James would have been one hell of a swap. But no, instead, frustrating Welsh winger Harry Wilson. Pretty sure Marco Silva would gladly trading him in for Callum, an England international striker and Newcastle goal machine who's literally going to be playing in the Champions League. With both Wilson and Mitrovic in the Fulham team, they'd probably get top half. Liverpool, Fabio Carvalho for Ricardo Carvalho. Okay, so in this format, I'm allowed to use any player who's still on Liverpool's books. And yes, I know he's currently on loan at RB Leipzig, but imagine, just imagine Jurgen Klopp being able to get rid of this ex-Fulham wonder kid to just pluck Ricardo Carvalho out of thin air. Go back to 2004. Carvalho was a Champions League winning defender with Porto, who'd go on to become an absolute Chelsea legend. Lads, this Portugal international was ahead of his time. He was a confident ball-playing centre-back. In an era where most defenders just lumped it long, they weren't the refined, cultured defenders playing with a swagger that we have now. They were mostly just Neanderthal orcs who looked like they probably all fancied their mum. Stick peak Carvalho, a former Mourinho henchman, into a centre-back pairing with Virgil van Dijk, and Liverpool, they'd win the league. Luton Town, Dion Pereira for Mateus Pereira. This seems mean. Dion Pereira is just some 24-year-old English winger who signed for Luton 3 years ago and has only played 3 times. Last season he was on loan at Bradford. I can only assume he's got the first touch of an allergic dinosaur. And yeah, I'm ruthlessly just using him as a transfer pawn, flushing him out the window to sign, let's say, Mateus Pereira. The Brazilian winger now floundering in Saudi, but he was a quality goal threat for West Brom. 11 goals in a Premier League season and absolutely terrorised the soon-to-be European champions at Stamford Bridge. Him and Luton would be decent. Man City, Sergio Gomez for Mario Gomez. Okay, I know Manchester City have a Silva on their books, which is a powerful name to have in football. But is there really that big a gap between Bernardo and David? Not as big as you might think. It wouldn't be a huge upgrade. I'm toying with the idea of swapping Julian Alvarez out for Edson Alvarez. You know, the in-demand Ajax midfielder. But to be fair, Donny van de Beek would sort of now make me look at Ajax with more suspicion than I would a BBC presenter. So go on and throw away 22-year-old fullback Sergio Gomez, who is a poor man Zinchenko. Actually, not even a poor man Zinchenko. Maybe a broke man Zinchenko. A man who's now sleeping on a park bench, eating dead pigeons for his tea. So go on then, get rid of Sergio Gomez for peak Mario Gomez. A massively underrated striker in his peak. In 2012, he finished the season for Bayern Munich with 41 goals. The previous season, he netted 39. Between 2007 and 2017, he had scored 236 goals in 375 games. That's almost Lewandowski levels. I know Pep Guardiola immediately sold him when he took over at Bayern Munich 10 years ago, and I know many people will sneer at this suggestion, but lads, a 2011 version of Gomez waiting on the bench would be absolutely deadly. And they'd probably win the treble again. Man United, Luke Shaw for Wayne Shaw. Yeah, remember that goalie who got in trouble for eating a pie on the bench? I actually reckon he'd be a quality backup option on the bench for... Okay, I'm sorry, I'm just joking, it's a joke, alright? Relax. Let me do this one again. Man United. Dean Henderson for Jordan Henderson. This is gonna cause Man United fans to have a breakdown whilst listening to this pure wet garbage, right? Most of them would sooner eat their own cat in a stew than dare to let the current Liverpool captain pull on a Manchester United shirt. But I think if most Man United fans were honest with themselves, they'll be annoyed that they weren't the ones to sign Henderson from Sunderland in 2011. I mean, he grew up to be a Champions League and Premier League winning captain. Man United haven't had one of those since Vidic. Chuck away Dean Henderson like a chuck a wet toast and bring in a young 21-year-old Jordan from the northeast. He'd be like a young Brian Robson. Too much? Newcastle. Jamal Lewis for Rico Lewis. Newcastle have so many players with unusual names. How many other Gamares, Longstaff or Saint-Maximans are there in the world? I debated whether to swap Jacob Murphy for Danny Murphy, but I actually think just stay current and do a like-for-like trade. Jamal Lewis for Rico Lewis. The Manchester City protege, the future Philip Lam. He's a modern-day fullback who can play midfield too. He's only 18, has been moulded in the City Academy since 2013. He is one of the first examples of what happens when a club has undergone the full Pep Guardiola experience in the City Academy. As Man City have tried to build their own La Masia, imagine Lewis playing left back for Newcastle in the Champions League before drifting into midfield and playing 1-2s with Bruno and Tonali. Oh, it would be utter delicious. Lewis is going to be one of the most complete English footballers in the world. Him and Newcastle, he'd soon be worshipped as a king. Future captain, Nottingham Forest. Nico Williams for Nico Williams. Yeah, I couldn't resist. Get rid of Nico Williams and go out there and get Nico Williams. I know, I sound like an insane green goblin ranting himself in the mirror. But you know what I mean. Rid yourselves of that average Welsh full-back and replace him with 20-year-old Athletic Bilbao superstar, wing wizard Nico Williams, who's already got 8 senior caps for Spain, with both him and Brendan Johnson on the Forest wings. Yeah, he'd keep you in the league. Sheffield United. Jack Robinson for Paul Robinson. Sheffield United need a goalkeeper. I know it's not perfect, but Paul Robinson did have over 40 England caps in net. I know his career then slid off a cliff in Croatia, but I reckon that 2005 version of Robinson, a pretty rock solid young goalie at Tottenham, then yeah, just trade in ex-Liverpool defender Jack Robinson for a safe pair of hands in goal. Right, Tottenham. Ben Davies for Alphonso Davies. It's funny how one of the most devastating fullbacks in world football has such an ordinary and banal second name. Imagine Tottenham being able to trade average Welsh left back Ben Davies for Bayern Munich's absolute monster wing back Alphonso. This would change so much. Imagine him playing in Angelo Postecoglou's attacking system. He would wolf the Premier League to bits, become a Tottenham hero, be everything Ryan Sessegnon was supposed to be and more. He'd almost single-handedly get this team back into the Champions League. Just mouth-watering. West Ham, Ben Johnson for Glenn Johnson. Yeah, I wish this was a more exciting move, but it's just a like-for-like swap. Trading in one homegrown ex-academy West Ham right back for another one. Except Glenn Johnson was much better than Ben. I mean, especially Johnson in 2009. That was peak Johnson, where for some reason everyone wanted him that summer. Liverpool won the race, but Chelsea, who'd already been him off to Portsmouth in 2006, were prepared to pay £18 million to bring him back. Man City were interested too. That version of Johnson would be top class for West Ham in the Europa League now. Wolves, Fabio Silva for Thiago Silva. Fabio Silva has to be one of the biggest wastes of money in the Premier League. £35 million for a teenage wonder kid who's done virtually nothing in a Wolves shirt. So just throw him away for let's say peak Thiago Silva. I consider David and Bernardo, but Wolves have lost both Nathan Collins and Connor Cody in the same summer. And Napoli are sniffing around Max Kilman. I would worry for their defense right now, so yeah, just bring in a 30-year-old Thiago Silva. He alone would squeak you into 10th. Anyway, that's it. Let me know what do you think, right? What namesake would you choose? Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to give a like, subscribe, as always. I'll talk to you in a while.